And away we go. Stepping up to the dish is yours truly, Dan Stratford, talking some Monday night, March 31st, MLB DFS. Pleasure to be back with you. Hope the weekend treated you well. Played one lineup Saturday, one lineup Sunday. Did not fare well, so probably won't be doing that as much. Set one lineup while at the Science Museum here in Boston. Brought the girls to, in short, they go to a summer camp associated with family members who have had cancer. So there was a sort of a get together for that, so they could see their counselors, see some of the other campers before they go away in the summer for it. So we went, and it was actually really enjoyable and fun to be with the kids and see them around the counselors. But it was like 12:05, and I realized I had registered for a lineup. So I was walking around the Museum of Science, checking projections and making a lineup that did not do well. No torpedo bats in the lineup for me. So that is one of the funnier things going on in Major League Baseball right now. I know the Yankees play the Evil Empire so well. I know a couple other teams have used it, but I loved what Pat Murphy said, the Brewers head coach, manager, said, it's not the magician, it's not the wand, it's the magician, which is such a great one metaphor for it, but also just a great way to be like, hey, man, they hit really well, and we can't really blame the bat for us not missing bats. So let's dive into this Monday night slate. You see I have Fantasy Labs up as always. We'll go through, try to find the best matchups. I did briefly look at this. This isn't a full first look for me. No real weather concerns that I saw anywhere, but it does seem like it's going to be a Tyler Glasnow plus slate. Glasnow is priced accordingly. He is up at 10K. Obviously, each slate is different when it comes to the algorithm for pricing, but one of the most expensive pitchers we've seen so far on the year. We saw opening day, a lot of high-end number ones and price points, 98, 10K, I think, was the highest there. So again, we have Glasnow and Blanco as our two top. As I looked at this slate briefly earlier, Bowden Francis is someone who popped off the page at me, had a great end to last year. Good enough spring training. Now comes in, 28 years old. I love Baseball Reference. For those of you who used to listen to the GPP with Dave and I, or even when Dave and I were at Osimo, I would use Baseball Reference to make sure I was trying to pronounce people's names correctly when he and I hosted together. But it's Bowden Francis instead of Bowden. Bowden Francis jumped off the page at me. And then it's a bunch of yuck. But I assume Ben Brown should be projected well. I haven't looked yet. So Brown and Francis and Glasnow is where I sort of first looked and thought I might end up. So let's go through these games, and we'll do our best to look at where the upside is. Remember, it's really rolling averages on moonshots around K percentage, walk percentage, WOBA, ISO, all of that. And it says it right there. Projected or confirmed lineup versus pitching hand, 2024 and 2025. So some of these numbers, dependent on the lineup, depending on how many stats are available for a certain team, can be skewed, right? These aren't going to be projectable. They are what has happened historically. So just a reminder, as you're working through and you're using a projection system and you're looking at stats and you're looking at fan graphs, until you get into the projection side of the house, or if you're using a simulation tool, as some other DFS sites have, that's really where you start to build out that forward look rather than looking at what's happened to date. But nonetheless, Pirates at Rays, obviously this is happening at George M. Steinbrenner Field, 80 degrees. So this is a situation where we will have to monitor how this park plays as the year goes on. Obviously, this is a spring training facility. There's no way that's pronounced McGinsky. Okay. Here we are. I had to look one up already. It's Carmen McGinsky versus Drew Rasmussen. This is a contest that currently has a Vegas. Oh, my computer's running slow. Vegas total for 4.9 of Tampa Bay, 3.8 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. You've seen some of the Line come down, opened at 4.9, down to 4.6, opened at 3.8, down to 3.6. But nonetheless, let's take a look at our projections. Not going to get, it doesn't look like we'll get a lot from this game. Drew Rasmussen, is my man even listed? Let's see. Rays, looking for Rays. Maybe he's just not available in the system here. Let's check something out here. Is 8,500? Yeah, it's an occupational rotation spot. Pitched well this spring. Didn't pitch a ton last year. Drew Rasmussen is fine, but 8,500, I would rather just go to Francis here at 8,300. The rest of this matchup is Miglinski, as we said. I don't know a lot about Carmen Miglinski. I have not really done my homework there. Let's take a quick look at any blurb that's here. I did read up on him a little bit before. Relatively low workload. We're probably going to see some innings limits here. Didn't pitch a ton as a starter last year. Pitched as a reliever. Used to be a starter. So I didn't track Miglinski in the spring training at all. I have no desire to go here unless you're looking for a really cheap option, right? Unless you're trying to find... they haven't projected on moonshots at 8.46. Let's see if Tampa Bay comes up. What Drew Rasmussen's only projected at 7.57 points. I think that might be a mistake. I'll reach out to Mike once I'm done recording this. He is projected at 31.2% DraftKings ownership, though, and that seems astronomical for this slate. I don't see a ton from this game. 6-mile-an-hour winds out to center field. Pirates... 22% K percentage. Rays, right there, they're identical, 22.8%. ISOs are terrible. This is a game I'd stay away from. I know the Rays are projected at 4.6 according to Vegas, or have a Vegas implied total of 4.6 runs. But I'd rather find offense elsewhere on this slate. If you're going one-offs and you want to look at the lineup, maybe let's take a look. I didn't open the lineup tab as of yet. Let's see. We have some day games I got to scroll through. We have Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lowe, Caminero. It's, Jonathan Aranda. I'm fine there. First and second base eligibility gives you a little flexibility on DK if you're trying to work a lineup. Christopher Morel, we know, has a ton of pop as well. So if you want to stack the middle of this lineup against Miglinski, which I still can't believe that's how that last name is pronounced, Carmen Miglinski, but you have Aranda, Morel, and Misner. I'm fine there. Like, if you just want to differentiate and get a piece of this game, the Rays, again, projected at 4.6. Diaz, Lowe, and Caminero, all priced accordingly, and I won't go there on this slate. Up next, let's see, Nationals, Blue Jays, Soroka versus Francis. I'm going to be on Bowden Francis here. I think this is the right matchup. The Nats don't strike out a ton. The lineup they have out there, 20.9%. But if we look at the actual lineup, you're going to see some red lines here. James Wood, Paul DeJong, a couple of 20%ers here. I think Francis is going to be highly owned. Let's check that out. Projections. He's at 13.8%. That feels like a nice number percentage-wise if that comes to pass, especially when you look at Ben Brown at 35. You have Glasnow projected at 64.7. Then you had Rasmussen up in the 30% as well. So Bowden Francis, I'm gonna hang my hat on a bit here. This is a guy who came back from injury. Second half of the season was fantastic. He was fantastic. And I think this is going to be a very solid season for him. He was very popular in season-long drafts. I think the strikeouts are there. What do you get? 92 and 108 innings, 109. Yeah. So I think this is a fine start. if you're starting to see his ownership creep up, maybe you pivot. But matchup against the Nats, as we looked at, James Wood on the other side against Mike Soroka. Soroka got lit up this spring. I don't know the exact numbers. Let's see if his blurb here on DK gives us anything. Tagged for 6 runs on 5 hits and 4 walks over 4 2/3 of an innings on March 26th. March 22nd, I should say. 7.47 ERA, 13-11 K to walk ratio. This is a recipe for disaster. So give me some opportunity with this matchup. 4.9 implied Blue Jays total. Let's see from our lineups and our projections what the stack is at. I assume that's going to be one of the higher. Blue Jays ownership 11.2%. So you're one of your higher stacks. So of course, what I always do is I'm looking for pieces maybe in different parts of the lineup that give me a little bit of flexibility. Is this a confirmed lineup? So again, you have bats at the bottom of this lineup that give you affordability, and that 8-9-1-2 wraparound, or 9-1-2-3 just differentiates a little bit, just a tiny bit. Now, obviously, Andres Gimenez batting cleanup gives you some flexibility as well, but Luke's at 2,400, rode in that 2K flat. I love that. So I'll be on the Blue Jays again. But again, the projection here from a stack perspective is the top stack. So if I'm going to differentiate but still try to get a piece of this game in a GPP lineup, I'm going to go to these different parts of the lineup. Unless, again, I don't want to make that sound like that's always my rule. Unless I feel like, one, the pieces at the top of the lineup are too good to pass up. And here, I will get them. I will get 9-1-2, or I'll get 8-9-1-2, or 9-1-2-3. Obviously, you lose in that bat when you go to somebody who bats ninth. It's the nature of the game, trying to differentiate when you have how many entries are in this contest. I always forget where it is. 19,000 participants. That's tough. So I'm going to differentiate where I can. The other side of the ball, don't want any Nationals. Angels at Cardinals. Tyler Anderson against Miles Michaelis. I don't know how Tyler Anderson's still pitching in Major League Baseball, but here he is. The Angels, 22.1%. The Cardinals at 18.2%. ISO 167, Angels 153. The Angels burned me a couple of times already this year. Michaelis is largely fine when it comes to just being a Major League capable pitcher. He's 36. He's up there. His ERA's terrible over the past 2 years. A whip of 130, 126 at away, 130 at home, 6.16 ERA last year at home. So I can see some bats from the other side of this contest. I could see this being a highly, I don't know, 3.5 and 4.2. That might be more about how bad these offenses can potentially be. But if we look at ISO for the Angels, 153. And then for the Cards, 167. Yeah, this is a putrid game. So maybe I go to one-offs if I'm trying to find some pieces. Obviously, Mike Trout is always going to be a talented opportunity here. He's not cheap, 5,500. And then you mix in some like Shawnell, who has an opportunity. Let's see. I'll put his ISO against righties. Jeez. On the other side, Tyler Anderson gives up a ton of power to the left side, surprisingly. So if you want to talk about Lars Nootbaar, you want to potentially talk Brendan Donovan, I'm fine. The Cardinals do what you usually do against lefties, and they gave you a bunch of righties. Anderson slightly better against righties. But again, if you want to go Nootbaar and Contreras, if you need that piece, the power is obviously there for Wilson Contreras. I just don't love this game. But if I had to go, it'd be 1-2 in this contest. Let's see. What do we got for... This is live 15 days. Here are the bullpens. Cardinals bullpen's been bad. Angels has been decent. Obviously, they have Ben Joyce and was it Kenley Jansen in the back end there? So, Giants and Astros, Jordan Hicks, Ronel Blanco. Blanco, obviously, one of the top projected pitchers on the slate. And Jordan Hicks, we all keep waiting to be better. He has struggled mightily. And so that walk percentage, like the fact that his K minus walk against lefties is nearly flat. Nearly flat is just crazy to me. So again, on Moonshots, if you're not a subscriber, you can click in and get all of the Fangraphs data and all the StatCast data. Sorry, I don't mean to say Fangraphs. StatCast data, similar to Fangraphs. But if you look at these advanced splits, they're putrid for Hicks. He just never has been able to piece it together. 4.10 ERA last year. 96 strikeouts, 109 innings. This is the kind of guy that you need to be a K or more per inning. You can't have him be sub, 9 Ks per 9 or whatever, or whatever percentage you want to go to. You need at least a K per 9 to make up for the walks and make up for the home runs. So I'll stay away from Hicks. For the Astros, Yordan Alvarez is always in the mix for me. You see the ISO isn't great for lefties. For Jordan Hicks, he does pretty well there, but Alvarez is, as my middle child says a lot of late, built different. So that's fine. I don't love any of the Giants. Blanco's going to be highly owned, I have to assume. What are the projections at? Only at 7.9%. Against the Astros, I guess that's, a deterrent enough because of the power. But if we look at Blanco... Sorry, against the Giants for Blanco. I'm surprised there. He's given up some power to lefties in his career. But I'm not afraid of any of these lefty bats. So Blanco is definitely in the mix and probably will be my GPP lineup if he's sub 10%. So Francis and Blanco, as I thought, would be two pieces. Guardians, what was Vegas on this one? 4.2 and 4.5, Houston Astros. So, yeah, one or two Astro bats and Blanco as an option. Guardians, Padres, 3.9 and 4.3 implied totals. That's what they opened at. That's what they're still at. Let's see what our matchup is. Luis Ortiz, Kyle Hart, relative humidity of 98%. Wind blowing from left to right at Petco. Interesting numbers there to be mindful of. Humidity is very high. If that temperature was higher too, you'd probably see a ton more projected home runs. I know Petco's largely been a pitcher's park over the years. It's come back down to be a bit more of a hitter's park, and obviously they've gotten better offense, so that skews some of the data a little bit as well. But let's see. Guardians, Padres, Ortiz. The Padres, 16.5% K percentage, ISO of 167, WOBA of 329. For the visiting Guardians, 18.9, 354 WOBA, 225 ISO. So Kyle Hart as the lefty here, going up against this Guardians lineup. All right. Some Ramirez, some Lane Thomas, some Carlos Santana, all more than reasonable. You have Noel as a one-off at 3,200 for potential power. I think he might be, 0.255 expected home run. Jose Ramirez is at 0.304 expected home run. I love all the stuff Mike's updated to really try to bring the site fully together so you're getting all the information each place you look. Again, if you're not a subscriber, check out the account tab, and you can subscribe to DFS. You can subscribe to DFS and betting, just betting, season long, all different options available to you over on Moonshots, MLB.com. On the other side, similar situation. Lefties do really well against Luis Ortiz. Arias, we know walks. Jackson Merrill, 5,200. Jake Cronenworth. So again, 4-5 here for the Guardians. 2-3-4 for... Sorry. Let me start over. 4 and 5 for the homestanding Padres on offense. And then for the visiting Guardians, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, and 6. So if you want to figure out getting Santana through to Noel, you have to pick up Manzardo, but you're going to run into position eligibility issues there. So probably just 2, 3, 4 in that lineup. Kwan's fine at the top, even against a lefty. He just doesn't strike out, so he gets on base. The run opportunity will be there for him. We don't have a ton, if any, stats on Kyle Hart. Let me see what his note is. He's a fifth starter. Injuries. Yeah, 6 runs over 4 2/3 innings. Former Red Sox farmhand. Yeah, sure. I think this game's viable. 3 more games to go. Detroit, Seattle, 3-7 and 3-9. Detroit down to 3-5 on their total. It's Jackson Jobe versus Emerson Hancock. Some good names there. Jobe's a fantastic pitcher. I don't know if we're getting any sort of limit on him. He is at 8,800. 4 starts in the Grapefruit League, 3.65 ERA, 8-4 K to walk. Let me just do a quick perusal of MLB.com to get Jobe's official stats before he got the call up last year. But our Vegas total, as we said, 3.739. So we do have a pitcher's matchup here. Jobe at 8,800. I'd rather Jobe over Rasmussen, but I probably prefer Francis over both of them. Now, Emerson Hancock, I don't know a ton about. Where did the search go? It used to be right here. There it is. Just my computer running slow. There he is. Complete stats. Don't you love hearing me talk through the things I'm searching for? Oh, it brought me to Emma. I want minor league stats. Why would you bring me back to Major League Baseball when I searched intentionally for minor league baseball? Come on, Major League Baseball. Come on, MLB. Be better. Jackson Jobe MLB stats. There we go. 96 strikeouts in 91 innings, 261 over 233 in his career. That kid's good. He's also 23 years old. But he's really good. Let's see Seattle rolling averages here. 26.4%, 26% K percentage over the past 15 days. Ooh, I might convince myself to go back to Jackson Jobe. Jobe's, yeah, so they're definitely 13.9%. So he's in the mix for me. Emerson Hancock projected similarly. Let's check Hancock's quick blurb here. You know what's fun about listening to me do a podcast about Major League Baseball DFS these days is I do not pretend to know anything. Roster solidified, just 1 run on 4 hits, 4 strikeouts. George Kirby. There you go. So no strikeouts here. So I'll stay away from Hancock. 2020 first rounder, but feels like what's his name from the Cubs, who's now maybe on the Angels. Let's see, Angels starting. Let's see. I can't remember the guy's name. I can picture him. Let's see if he's actually on the Angels or not. Am I right about this? I feel like he is. Kyle Hendricks. That's what I was thinking of. There's a new man, a new age Kyle Hendricks. All right. So I don't want any Hancock. I do think that Jobe is very much in play offensively. If I'm taking Jobe, obviously I'm not taking any of these Seattle bats. If we look at the projected lineup for this one, Cal Riley's always fine. Luke Raley, as a one-off. Expected home run from him is 2.94. For Raleigh, it's 3.308 against Jobe. Don't have a ton of info, obviously, on Jobe, but the upside's there. Power bats, I would take 1 or 2 if you really want to. Rowdy Tellez is projected as a lefty here who could pop one, obviously. But those are really one-offs for building a ton of lineups. having them in your player pool when you're generating 150 lineups to differentiate and find some power. Tiger side, I don't want any of this. I guess Kerry Carpenter. Maybe let's see what the projections have. Yeah, I mean, they're reasonably projected, and they're not owned. Hancock pitching to contact gives up, in his short career, power to righties and hits to lefties. All right. Green, Torres, Carpenter, Keith, get into a mix there of 2, 3, 4, 5. McKinstry probably gives you flexibility, I think, on DK, but you don't really need that. I have him in a ton of season-long leagues just as a way to differentiate positionally. But 2,300. So if you're looking for savings, go 1, 2, 3, 4 to get the savings on your third baseman here. All right, let's continue on. So again, we got some pieces of Tigers. We got some one-offs with the Astros. 1-2 from, or 1-2, 3-4 from the Cardinals. Blue Jays are the ones I still love the most, though. It's 8-9, 1-2 or 9-1, 2-3 without any question for me in that game. And then Rays, Pirates, I am not really interested in. All right, Cubs at Athletics. Checking our dashboard again. Ben Brown, Joey Estes. Brown's going to be highly owned. I love him here. He had a very solid year last year. And this is an Athletics lineup that doesn't strike out a ton, but just isn't very good. So on the other side, Joey Estes, I will not even dignify. He has just an awful spring. Let's see. He's projected at 10.71. So I'll stay away from Estes for sure. Ben Brown, I will go to. Let's see what our projections are here. 4.1 for the A's, 4.5 for the Cubs. So Ben Brown is fine for me. What's his ownership projected at? 35.7%. All right, GPPs, I'll stay away. I don't know if you're going to get to Glasnow and Brown as your cash game pitchers. I'll leave that to some of the guys in the Discord chat there from Moonshots MLB. But I guess that makes sense, and you could do it tonight. There are enough cheap options in good batting positions in the lineup that you probably could make that work without really sacrificing a ton. So our final game is the Dodgers-Braves. This is a Braves lineup that isn't that great. They don't have Acuna. I think they got swept to open the year, right? They're applied at 3.4, 4.9 implied for the Dodgers. Obviously, I'm not breaking any news here. You have a matchup of Glasnow versus Grant Holmes. Holmes doesn't give up a bunch of power, but when you're talking about Shohei Ohtani and you're talking about Betts and you're talking about Freeman, you're talking about Teoscar Hernandez, and you're talking about Max Muncy, the opportunities there. Ohtani is projected 0.299, Teoscar Hernandez at 0.302, so expected home runs there. On the other side, you do have Ozuna, maybe as, according to this projection here, as a one-off if you're not pitching Glasnow and you're trying to go against that 30 or 60%. More power to you. That would be the theory here, right? If 60% of the field is taking a pitcher, then finding the bats that you like that maybe give you some upside, like Olsen and Ozuna, give you an opportunity here. Obviously, again, I'm looking at the crazy plays like a Drake Baldwin. If he's batting 7th as a catcher, I wish he was 2,200 instead of 2,700, or Jared Kelenic. I always pronounce his name incorrectly, too. That's another one. I always have to look up. But nonetheless, I think you have opportunity here. Jared Kelenic. If you wanted to try to find a piece, a power bat. So let's run a quick run of our generator, but I'm going to lock in my pitchers. I'm going to say I'm going to go Francis. Well, let's go Ben Brown just to see what we do and what the site provides for us. So you do get Aranda. I did mention before at Tampa Bay. So the Tampa Bay pieces This is an interesting push here. I guess Otani really and Tucker really are the ones that we have a lot of high priced guys with Ramirez, Kyle Tucker, Shohei Otani. All right. And then we have to find savings elsewhere. Projected at 117.79 using 49.8. If we take that off and we look one more time just to make sure I cover everyone. Who was it that just came? Oh, it was the Tampa Bay Rays bats. Yeah. So Aranda, Morel, and Misner in the middle of this lineup against McGlinskey. Blue Jays, mentioned a couple times, 8-9-1-2, 9-1-2-3, 4 if you want to. Cardinals, some Baker, Arenado, Contreras, Nootbaar. Blanco's in the mix for starting pitchers. Offensively, Yordan Alvarez stands out for me there. Guardians and Padres, neither of the pitchers. 2-3-4 for the Guardians. Jackson Merrill and Jake Cronenworth for me from the Padres. Feels like a night I need to have more than one lineup. That's what it's feeling like. I need to diversify a little bit. So maybe I'll do 5 lineups tonight. We'll see. And then the Tigers. I think the Tigers are more than legitimate as a stack tonight. The couple of lefty bats from Seattle, if you want to differentiate against Job, if his ownership starts to tick up. Ben Brown. And then Glasnow and obvious Dodgers bats. And then Marcell Ozuna. All right, so that does it. Hope this is helpful as I walk through a longer episode today because I was really picking up information as I was going. So hopefully this is helpful. And if it's not, let me know. Shoot me a message in Discord or I'm on Blue Sky these days, so I'm not on Twitter anymore. You can always shoot me a message on YouTube too. I post these to YouTube. You can leave me a comment. If you prefer something different, want something more articulately explained, or want them shorter, longer, whatever it might be. I may not listen, but I always appreciate the feedback. Until next time, thanks so much for listening to The Dish.